Titans, go!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, back in Titans Tower, ready to talk some Titans. Nope. Well, actually, we're going to talk about Doom Patrol today.
Yes, we are temporarily the Doom Patrol podcast.
Yeah, we're essentially Doom Talk.
Yeah,
today.
I like that.
Yeah. But the reason we're talking Doom Patrol, obviously, because Doom Patrol appeared in the 4th episode of Titan Season 1, and is sort of connected to Titans in that way. It's almost like a spin-off series because you had a lot of the same actors reprising their roles on Doom Patrol. And also in episode 2, we get Cyborg. So there is a Titans connection here. So as far as I'm concerned, it counts.
Yeah, though I don't think there is many same actors reprising roles. Maybe the physical role and then someone else doing the voice, maybe, but it felt like almost an all-new cast.
Yeah. Well, actually, in the Titans episode, they went and got Brendan Fraser, who plays Robotman. They did the voice in Titans.
He did do that one. Okay,
and so did Matt Bomer, who does Negative Man.
Oh, okay, well that's good. I'd forgotten that.
The only one that's really different is the Chief, obviously, because in Titans he was played by Bruno Bashir, but here he's played by Timothy Dalton. I think Timothy Dalton does a much better job.
Yeah, no offense to
Bruno.
Bruno, but if you can get a Time Lord and a James Bond to play one of your leads, you do it.
Yes. So obviously I'm here with Jesse. Welcome back, Jesse.
Thanks.
We definitely missed you. Phil and I talked about Young Justice in our previous episode here, but you were sorely missed.
Well, thank you. That's very nice. Phil
but obviously we
truly
understand that you've got some rather important commitments right now.
Absolutely.
So
Phil is as much as Charles and I are really, really passionate and strong comic fans, Phil has to be in the discussion of one of the most knowledgeable members of our network. And so if you cannot have me, I think that's a pretty good fill-in. Might even be a step up. So
well, no, it's not a step up. You're obviously our favorite.
Thank you.
But Phil, we obviously appreciate, and because he is such a big comics geek. And he's obviously a big Young Justice geek.
Yeah.
So that worked out rather well for us, I think. Mm-hmm. And we're going to try and have him on to kind of do what we did a part 2, where we kind of talk about the next, the remaining episodes of the season, the second half.
Good.
But so that's then.
All right.
Now, though, we're going to talk about the Doom Patrol pilot episode, appropriately called Pilot because they didn't give it a specific name. And this aired just a few days ago on February 15th, 2019, written by Jeremy Carver, directed by Glenn Winter, who obviously directs a lot of the big DC pilots. He directed the Titans pilot and some other, he directed the Batwoman pilot for that presumably will become a new CW series if all goes well. And he directed the Flash pilot and also the Arrow pilot. So... And I think he directed the Supergirl pilot, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Ooh, that's pretty. Yeah, that's.
So he's basically DC's go-to guy for pilot episodes, and I think he did a really good job with this episode. I can't wait to talk about with you. The credits, the opening credits, right from the get-go, they're so artistic, and I definitely got I know you're not a big credit guy, but me being credit guy, opening credits guy, I really love the feel of it. I love the theme music. It was very creepy, but yet, interesting. And it had almost like a Netflix feel to with those opening credits, kind of like the Jessica Jones credits, kind of reminded me of a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
Yeah, very creepy, which I figured you would like.
Yes.
I did not like them as much because they were so creepy.
Okay.
The eyeball bothered me.
It did?
Yes, it bothered me a great deal. But yes, it was very artistic, very moody, and I did not think of Netflix. I thought more of HBO.
Oh, really?
Something that
That level?
yeah, that high end. I really I think this is a very layered and kind of elaborate series. This feels more like pay cable, HBO or Showtime.
Right.
Than and nothing against Titans.
It's not TV, it's HBO.
Right. I mean, this is it very much. And by the way, you were correct. He did do Supergirl.
Okay.
And he did Legends of Tomorrow.
Okay, I missed one, but so he's obviously and because this is also another Berlantiverse production, obviously Greg Berlanti, executive producer, feels, like if we're going to do a pilot, we got to get Glenn Winter. He's their guy. He's their go-to guy.
He also directed, which could arguably be my favorite episode of Smallville, Legion.
Yes, that was a great episode.
Yeah.
I forgot that he did that, but you're absolutely right, and that's
thank you, IMDb.
Yeah, thanks, IMDb.
Yeah.
So I know, Jesse, that Doom Patrol isn't in your wheelhouse, but overall, what did you think in comparison? Like, say if you were comparing the Titans first episode to this episode. What would you think of it, maybe just in terms of production quality or story or characters? What did you think in comparison to that? Do you think that Doom Patrol had a stronger first episode?
By far. I think this is I do not watching Titans, there is the thrill because I had read Titans books forever.
Right.
The thrill of seeing them live action. Being a superhero fan, Legion of Superhero fan, seeing Mon-El and Brainy on Supergirl, seeing Arrow and Flash and Black Lightning and all these characters that come along, you go, oh, I'm so excited, and you may be disappointed how they show them or excited how close they become. I had no feeling of I vaguely remember Negative Man,
right.
the black
energy
being
being
flying around.
The negative spirit.
Yeah, I obviously remember Robotman. I did not. Elasti-Girl was more like, from my memory, someone more like, Colossal Boy or Reed Richards or somebody.
Right.
So I didn't have a strong feeling.
Right.
First off, I would argue your show is always better with Alan Tudyk doing the narration.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to get into too specifics.
No. Yeah, and we're going to obviously, because one of the things the topics I want to run down, I want to talk about Robotman and the Chief first.
Okay.
And then I want to talk about, the second topic, I want to talk about Crazy Jane, Rita, and Larry.
Okay.
I want to talk about, and then the third topic, I want to talk about Mr. Nobody.
Okay.
They're our big bad, played by Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
But before that, we get into that, I agree. I thought that the decision to have Mr. Nobody, which is this very surrealistic character in the comics, he gets away here because he breaks the fourth wall,
yes.
and as a result, I thought it was a great narrative device to kind of introduce the characters and to kind of, try to get the viewer engaged in what's going on, because there's obviously a lot of strange stuff going on. But to do it with a sense of humor.
So, Charles, what you had is a little bit of camp, a little bit tongue-in-cheek narration, right, yet the show itself took itself very seriously.
Right.
And that combination made for a lot of fun. So I thought the pacing was really well. I thought the setting up the world was really well done. I think
the introductions of the characters,
focusing on Cliff Steele, Robotman, as kind of your main character,
right,
served its purpose really well. In fact, to pull back the curtain, I had talked to you about, Charles, I just don't know if I want to sign up for a regular episode every week. I'm already committed to doing Game of Thrones, and so I just don't know if I have room for more than one, episodic review every week. And I said, okay, I'm in. I just think this is too good of a stuff. I have some nitpicking that when we go through the different topics, but overall, spoiler alert, I'm going to rate this pretty high.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to find out.
Yeah.
With Robotman, and we might as well go in. That'll be our first topic I want to talk about. So, first topic number one I want to talk about is crawling from the wreckage. And that is a reference. I know, Jesse, you're probably not going to get these references. The title of basically these are my topic titles here are going to be references to Doom Patrol issue story titles.
Oh, okay, very nice.
Because this Doom Patrol series, is so heavily influenced by Grant Morrison's run. That was in Doom Patrol Volume 2 from issue number 19 to number 63. And this particular title, Crawling from the Wreckage, was from their first story in issue number 19 by Grant Morrison. And so obviously here I want to talk about Robotman and the Chief.
Okay.
And Robotman, because he is essentially like the character that has kind of existed throughout all the various incarnations of the Doom Patrol over the decades at DC Comics. So he's kind of like the prime character, the prime Doom Patrol character. So it makes perfect sense to make him the focus, especially since he's the most tragic in this case, because his body has been completely destroyed and now he's stuck in this robotic form.
Yeah. And
has to adapt. And so I want to get your thoughts on what you think of getting Cliff Steele's backstory that obviously we only got a touch of in the Titans episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chief, and especially I want to talk about get your thoughts on Timothy Dalton as the Chief, taking over from Bruno Bashir.
Okay. I think the first thing is the Brendan Fraser is just the right amount of sleaze as before he gets hurt.
Right.
He's and
that's kind of a change from the comics.
Okay.
Because the Cliff Steele, before he becomes Robotman, before he's in this accident, essentially it was just him. He was a race car driver in the comics, and he had his accident during the race.
Mm-hmm.
But here they change it so that Brendan Fraser's Cliff Steele was essentially having an affair with his nanny, probably because his wife was so busy obsessing over working out and not paying attention to their kid. Because if you notice, their daughter got along a lot better with him than her.
Yeah.
So she probably insisted on the nanny, but then Cliff decides, well, hey, I'm going to have an affair with the nanny.
Well, and it looks like he's a serial womanizer.
Right.
Because, he's sleeping with groupies.
Right.
And
he's on his third wife.
Yeah. And
And that's a pretty big change from the comics.
Yeah, I liked that change. I liked that he he's um, a little bit pumped by success. In other words,
Right.
he's not this great, super athlete. I mean, he's a race car driver.
Right.
He has enjoyed the spoils of victory, and so it looks like he enjoys, good food and good drinks, and he
Right.
does a few drugs, and he's just a little wheels off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I, not knowing the story,
Right.
bought into it that he had died in the race, and I thought it was
Right.
a nice surprise when later you see that it wasn't during the race. He actually got drunk and high and called begging forgiveness and was honestly at the moment ready to redeem himself.
Right.
And then a tragic accident happens.
It's like just when he kind of realizes where his priorities should be,
Yes.
tragedy strikes, and then that's what kills his wife and what he thinks it was his daughter.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm going to
So he loses everything.
Yeah, I'm going to relieve Crazy Jane that his daughter isn't dead.
Mm-hmm.
We've been lied to before.
Yes.
So, I already, I knew the big reveal. I thought it was going to be when he kept talking about, oh, my wife must be so worried. Okay, the chief's just not telling him, no, she's thrilled. She hated you,
Yeah, right.
She wanted you to die.
Well, there was that line that she says right before he starts the race. She goes, crash and die, honey.
Yeah.
So it's just like, well, thanks, dear. I love you too.
Yeah.
And so obviously, yeah, there's this bitterness in their relationship. And then he's driving around and he sees her flirting heavily with his engineer, his pit crew guy.
Yeah.
And that drives him crazy, and then that's where you think that's what caused the accident. But as it turns out, well, no, in this version, he didn't die.
Right.
And what happens is, he's trying to he finally, after all these issues, and they had separated, she took their daughter, so he was left boozing it up in a trailer or something. And then he kind of gets his act together and goes, okay, I guess I need to get back with my wife and my kid.
Yeah.
And just when he does that, then tragedy strikes, and he finds himself, all of a sudden he wakes up and his wife is dead. He thinks his daughter is dead, and he's stuck in this prison of a robot body.
Yeah.
Because apparently only his brain survived.
Yeah, and at first, he can't walk. He has to, be wheeled around in a little cart.
Yeah, there's this line that Mr. Nobody says that he's kind of wheeling him around like two kegs.
Yes, exactly.
On a dolly.
I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought him not being able to, climb the steps and, Rita, knitting and just okay, you might want to stop now because I'm tired of just hearing you.
Right.
Do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really liked how he came across.
Right.
And I'm a little empathetic to him.
Yeah.
Because, while he wasn't the greatest guy, this is kind of tragic.
Yeah.
And
what I think you're going to find, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, please.
What I was going to say is that what I think you're going to find, and where I think they're going with this, is that you're going to find that Cliff is going to be a better person as a robot than he ever was as a human.
Yes, I could see that.
And that's his kind of this is his redemption, his personal redemption.
Yeah.
And where he kind of finally gets his act together and figures out how to connect with people.
Yeah.
And obviously, and Jane is that start of that, because Cliff is broken, Jane is seriously broken, but these two have this bond. And this is what was played out in Morrison's run, is that they kind of help each other along as the comic book series progressed, and you probably see this in the TV series.
Yeah.
That they kind of help each other, and Cliff becomes a better person as a result.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the family build, the race cars and,
Right.
that this elaborate track and
to kind of also use as a device to show the passage of time.
Absolutely, it was. So yeah, I really loved it. It was he was, and I like the flashback sequences.
Right.
I think that makes for an interesting story. And the how heavy his steps are and all the things. So really great. I have questions, but I want to get through all the characters, and then I have lists for you to. I want Charles's.
All right. We'll just
spin on this.
I'll answer your questions, because obviously I'm a big Doom Patrol fan.
Yes, absolutely.
So hopefully I can answer your questions. So let's talk about the Chief for a moment. Now, when we covered the Doom Patrol episode of Titans, you and I both thought Bruno Bashir's Chief was very unlikable, and you especially, because now I had known that the Chief was controlling.
Right.
So I kind of expected that part of it, but you were completely turned off by that character, and it really bothered you, I think. So how did you feel about Dalton's approach? Because I think his approach seems to be more caring a little bit than Bryce Shear's so far.
I am so glad you brought this up, Charles. And I am very happy that you remembered what I thought of that. Because yes,
I try to pay attention, believe it or not.
I did like Dalton's take on the Chief a little bit better. He certainly was manipulative, and he certainly was controlling, but not quite, to me, controlling, and this sounds bad, in a good way.
Right.
Like, I'm not telling you because I really didn't want you. I didn't tell you about your wife and daughter until I thought it was ready, because I didn't want you to hurt. I wanted you to be doing better before I shared with you.
Right.
I don't know if he made the right choice in not sharing about his daughter being alive, but that is the gray area of you're seeing it.
Yes.
But I can understand the Chief going, this is, what can he do? Yeah. I mean, he's going to show up as a robot. And then we saw how things went when they went into the small town. Right. So there's just a lot of discussion about that.
So do you think it's more overprotectiveness coming from this version of the Chief?
Yes, that I had not thought of that word, but that is, I think, a very fair word. I don't know.
Because he's just like, don't go out. You're going to just freak everybody out, and you're just going to cause problems. Just stay here. You're safe here. And
we have not explained why the Chief has collected this family.
Right.
But on the Titan episode, you felt like he was pulling them together to manipulate them,
right,
or for his own devices.
Right.
Like, how can I help my research along by having these human guinea pigs? On this one, it truly seems, and I don't know why, and they may be setting me up to be disappointed,
right,
but it truly feels like he's collecting strays. For some reason,
right,
he is attached to the unattractive puppies that are in the pound,
Right.
and he's getting them to give them a good home. Don't know where he gets his money from. It's implied that they're
Yeah.
at least wealthy for somehow.
Right.
And so don't know if there's an ulterior motive, but at this point, I'm willing, in my best Pollyanna attitude, that he truly is just trying to.
You're willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yes, that he is, and I don't know, is Crazy Jane his actual daughter?
No,
Because he
she's not.
says she acts like she owns the place. And I thought
Yes.
that was an implication that she might be related to the chief.
Unless they change something for the show.
Okay.
So, as far as the comics go, no.
Okay.
She's not. She's not.
Okay.
No relation whatsoever. Now, the chief does have a wife, which I'll talk about when we talk about our Titans Tower news.
Okay.
So I'm going to tease that.
Oh, very
So
nice.
stay tuned. But
So what did you think of the chief?
so what
this
I thought
time?
what I thought with the chief, I really like Dalton's portrayal.
Yeah.
I've made no bones about it that I'm a big Timothy Dalton fan. I loved him in Penny Dreadful that was on Showtime recently.
He was wonderful in that.
He plays such a great character. So after seeing him in that, and obviously like I've been a fan of his since Bond and Flash Gordon and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But in Penny Dreadful, he shows like this. He has that a very chief demeanor about him, but he gives it a much more of a humanity.
Yes.
And that's what I thought. I was really hoping that Dalton would bring to this version of the chief once he took over the role, that Bashir didn't, is that humanity, that like okay, maybe the chief isn't this completely horrible human being. He does have redeeming qualities.
Yes.
So that makes him a much more complex character, I think, than just like this big manipulator that's so much of a bastard. And this version of the chief, I think there are ulterior motives, but because they've changed some things already from the comics, they could be changing more things. And I don't know.
Okay.
I wouldn't say, I'm not going to be like looking straightly at the comics. I think that's a good guiding line of to where things to expect, but I think there are going to be differences. So I'm kind of curious if they're going to do that with the chief here. And they've kind of hinted like, well, when Crazy Jane tells Cliff that, hey, the chief lied about his daughter being alive, that it's like, hey, I looked all over the internet. She's on the internet. And the Cliff can't quite believe it. He goes, well, why would the chief lie?
Yeah.
And, well, why is the chief lying if he's lying? We don't know yet.
Right.
And where are all these other trips that he's going off on? What is he doing there? And what is his secret history with Mr. Nobody that apparently they know each other?
Yes.
So there's questions there to be explored. So I think, and that's what I think is part of the mystery. And that's what's going to make this character very enigmatic and I think much more interesting to watch, is that you're not going to know exactly what he's up to.
Yeah.
And that's why I think he's going to be more compelling to watch as a viewer.
I agree.
All right. Cool. All right. Anything else about Robotman or the Chief?
No, I am curious where is he going? What does he do?
Right.
I am curious about the his ultimate, long-term game.
Right.
But like I said, at this point, I'm a little.
Well, he is a scientist, so he does kind of find the interesting the whole science of it. Like when he's trying to build Cliff a metal body.
Yes.
He's watching welding videos to figure out how to make this work.
Yes, I thought that was funny.
He's not happy with his work, and he's just like, okay, let me study this video and figure out how to do this. Yeah. Because to make up for areas that he doesn't know. Like he can keep Cliff's brain alive, but apparently building him the body was the tricky part.
Yes.
and because he's not a robotics specialist apparently.
Okay.
And but yeah, I think with the Chief, there's definitely more questions that, and that's part of the fun, part of the mystery, the storyline.
I agree.
And he's obviously a character to watch. So definitely keep an eye on him. But as far as Robotman, I love Brendan Fraser doing the voice. I think he's so good at doing this tragedy, this you can feel the pain in his voice, and I think it's a really great vocal performance by Brendan Fraser. I really like that a lot.
Okay.
And so I think it's great casting so far. I'm really thrilled with it.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to topic number 2. Cautionary tales. So this is another Doom Patrol story title. This was from the next issue, Doom Patrol number 20.
Okay.
Of Morrison's run. And I want to talk about Jane, Crazy Jane, a.k.a. Kay Chalice, because that's her real name, and Rita Farr, a.k.a. Elasti-Woman, and Larry Trainer, a.k.a. Negative Man. So I want to get your thoughts on the rest of the Doom Patrol in this episode and what you thought of them and their introductions, especially Jane, because we had seen Rita and Larry in the Titans episode. So what did you think of Crazy Jane?
I liked her a lot.
Played by Diane Guerrero.
Yeah, a very interesting character. I knew nothing about her, had never heard of her.
Right.
You know, the actress comes across as very likable. Does a good job of flipping between the different personalities. I don't watch Orange is the New Black, but I know she had a role in that. I did used to watch Jane the Virgin, and she was Lena in that.
Okay.
So the actress, I like her.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with her, so.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to learning more of her. I was at first worried that the whole going back and forth personalities would become irritating.
Right.
From my perspective, they have her be fairly consistent in her personalities. Like when we first see her in the hallway, she keeps changing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm like, okay, that's going to get old. But this one it seems to be a little more not as disjointed. So that worked for me as a character. So I like her. I don't know if there is a brother-sister or something more between her and Cliff, relationship, but there's certainly a bond. I think it's too early to have to put a tag on it, but I like the way they're connecting, and so I like that a lot.
Yeah, if they go the route that Morrison did in the comics, you'll find there is a reason that Jane likes Cliff, and it's primarily around the fact that because he's a robot, he's not human.
Got it.
And I won't tease anymore because it's kind of an important revelation that I think will probably be coming at some point in the series. But there's some trauma involved with her. As far I'll say that.
Okay.
And Cliff, it's obviously what affected her, and essentially Crazy Jane, who was created by Morrison, by the way, co-created. She's essentially, if you remember the Sally Field movie Sybil.
Yes.
Okay, where she was what they called then schizophrenic.
Right.
And is now known as essentially dissociative identity disorder. That's the current term for that. But so Sybil in that movie had all these distinct personalities. They all had their own identities and what they called themselves. Here, Crazy Jane is essentially like that, only each personality has its own superpower.
Yes.
So she has 64 different personas. So, and as a result, has 64 different superpowers. So as needed, or, whatever, that one personality would come to the surface, become the dominant personality, and then Jane would be able to use that persona's powers. And sometimes with rather unpredictable results, because you don't know exactly which personality is going to pop out. And as a result, some of these personalities are likable. Some of them, like Hammerhead, which were introduced here, are not.
Yeah.
And the ones that aren't are essentially her rage, as we'll find out. And as a result, she's a deeply compelling character. And there's one scene I love, which is straight from the comics, straight from Grant Morrison's first issue on Doom Patrol, where Cliff meets Jane for the first time.
Okay.
During the painting scene, and where Jane is painting outside, and the rain starts coming.
Right.
And she talks about how her painting is ruined because of the rain, and she's talking about how just other people being normal and her not, and like everything's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And Cliff tells her to come in out of the rain. And
Yeah.
that is a line lifted exactly from Grant Morrison's first issue of Doom Patrol. And I was really happy to see that, because it's such an important – for one thing, it's important because it kind of defines their relationship, where Cliff is essentially – it's a metaphor for like, hey, you're not out here alone.
Right.
I'm here with you. You don't have to be out here in the rain by yourself. You can come inside, and I will be with you.
Mm-hmm.
And and it kind of sets the tone for their relationship as the series progresses.
Okay.
And I was really happy to see that.
Negative Man, right?
Negative Man. Yeah, Larry. So we got to meet Larry in the Titans episode. Here we got some more backstory with him, and probably because of Matt Bomer being cast. They decided in this version, as opposed to the comics version, that they decided to reveal that Larry was once upon a time had a gay relationship. And because it was like the 60s, that was very frowned upon.
Yeah.
And he had to keep that secret. So he already kind of fell as like a monster, and then he has his accident and becomes an actual monster. And so what did you think of Larry here in this one?
So
Negative Man.
Yeah, I kind of saw the reveal coming,
right?
And maybe because of the actor himself,
right. Matt Bomer,
is out.
Right.
I just don't think it was a needed subplot. But I don't have anything against it. It's just I don't really know the point. We'll have to see.
I think it was just to show that he was more already an outsider.
Yeah. I did not.
A misfit.
He was not as. There wasn't as much depth to him,
right,
as the others. I think of all the characters, he had the least, as far as from my perspective.
They didn't really. I mean, he wasn't the main focus in this episode.
So I don't know much about him.
He did get a couple of good scenes. I thought that the scene where he wheels Cliff outside so he can get some fresh air.
Yeah.
And Cliff is all like, "Well, I can't feel the air."
Mm-hmm.
And he's all like, "Sucks to be you."
Yeah.
And that kind of defines their relationship, that they can feel like they can pick on each other.
Right.
As kind of like they have kind of like a brother relationship.
Yeah, I did not understand the purpose of going into the bar to get a beer. Like, was he going to put a straw in it and sip through the bandages? Was he going to?
I don't think we quite know yet. I'm hoping we'll get more of that. I think it's just maybe the memory of it. Maybe he just kind of wanted to experience, like, hey, I used to walk into a bar, be able to walk and sit down at a bar and get a beer.
Yeah.
And he kind of wanted to try and recapture that because of now his condition.
So, yeah.
Like, it was just trying to be normal, I think.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
All right. Yeah. But anyway, not much thoughts about him
Okay,
whatsoever
so
yet.
all right, yeah. Maybe we'll get more of a focus later on. But I think it was
Right.
the heavy focus I think was on Cliff and Jane.
Absolutely. I
I
agree.
think. All right,
Okay.
Rita, the Elasti-Woman.
Mhm.
I want to get your thoughts because April Bowlby, she was obviously in the Titans episode, and
Mhm.
she's reprising the role here, and I think she's again doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And we get her backstory as because of being like an actress in the 50s, and that she was essentially kind of horrible too, a little bit.
Yeah, she was a little bit horrible. The idea of, oh, I can't be around someone who is,
Only has one arm.
yeah, that,
Yeah,
and,
it bothers me.
yes.
Like
So,
everything in my world has to be perfect.
right, which is, of course, then she becomes imperfect herself.
Right.
Um, I
It's almost
think,
like the universe being dishing out karmic justice
yeah,
here.
it is, she is so, I like her a lot. I
Yeah.
think she's charming. I think that she carries herself well. She is not totally, um, you know, crazy.
Right.
Um, oh, what's the famous show movie about the lady? I'm ready for my close up, Mrs.
Oh,
DeMille.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know which
yeah.
one you're
Okay,
talking
we'll
about.
think of this. Someone is yelling at us right now.
I'm sure
Yeah,
they are.
but
Yes.
she is. I mean, she's certainly glad when the waitress is talking about her performances
Yeah, yeah.
and everything, but she is
And you're
not
talking about with like when they go to town and
Sunset Boulevard. Yeah.
yes, yes. And
Yes, and she's she understands. Um, she remembers fondly her time when she acted and her career, but she is also not. I don't think total. I think she is a caring person, and
right,
I do think she does feel a little bit like the older sister, the good sister. Like, no,
right,
no, no, mom said we shouldn't have a party,
right.
and then like, okay, if everyone else is going to, all right, well, let's do this right then if we're going to do a party. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Rita's character right now, at least in this series,
Yeah.
stems more for the fact that yeah, she was this perfectionist. Everything had to be
Yeah.
perfect, and then that one little bit of imperfection just bothered her to the point, and then her accident happens, and where then her life gets completely upturned. She essentially becomes this often hideous freak
Yeah.
until she's able to get herself together,
Hmm.
literally, and
Yeah.
she as a result she's lost everything. She lost her career, and so she kind of lives in the past. That's why she keeps kind of looking at these old movies of her,
Yeah.
and she knows them by heart. She's able to just rattle off the dialogue right along with the movie,
Right.
and she just it seems like she lives in the past, and she's kind of bitter about that she doesn't have her old life, which you see her drinking. You kind of there's a little bit of bitterness, like especially when Cliff is like he's first starting to become aware again as Robotman, like his visor, you're looking through his eyes,
Hmm.
and there's that scene where she kind of says, okay, look, I'm going to be the one who tells you the truth.
Yeah.
And she lays basically the hard truth on him that, hey, the only thing that survived was your brain.
Yeah.
And the chief kind of gets mad at her about that. And, she kind of feels like, well, hey, he deserves to know the truth. So, and she's this, it feels like, like she's bitter about what happened to her. So maybe she wants Cliff to feel bitter about it as well, and then
Hmm.
kind of wallow in that misery in that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Right.
But so what you're going to see is eventually, I think, over the course of her character arc, is that she's going to realize her place in that, hey, I can have a different kind of life with the Doom Patrol. and I don't have to just hide away watching my old movies.
Yes.
So she's got to find herself as well.
I think so.
And reinvent herself, I think.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else about these characters before we move on?
No. I really I like them all. I thought the interaction between them, the kind of family feeling was good. They were, it helped, as I said, Mr. Nobody, Alec Tudyk, doing the narration with just a hint of, funniness. So yeah, it made for a really good episode.
And we'll talk about him right now. So let's move on to our third topic. Nowhere Man, as in he's a real nowhere man.
Yes.
Sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody.
Yes.
So that's the title of Doom Patrol number 26 by Grant Morrison. And that was a Beatles song. And a Beatles song. Yes, obviously. But that issue was also the first major appearance of Mr. Nobody and where we got his origin, which is told at the beginning of this episode, which is another reason I chose that title. Because we got the opening. We start the series off with Mr. Nobody's origin as we go back to 1948 Paraguay, and where we see Eric Morden getting involved with this Nazi scientist who's hiding out in Paraguay after World War II, and he does some experiments on him and turns him into Mr. Nobody. So I want to get your thoughts on Alan Tudyk and playing such a unique supervillain.
Yeah, what I loved is this whole, I spent money, a small fortune to get this, and then if I'd known what would have happened, I would have paid even more.
I would have paid double or something.
Yeah, and then as he's sitting there, being torn apart, and it looks like it's hurting him forever. So, I like this. I liked it a lot, and I was not familiar with the villain.
Right.
So
this was another character like Crazy Jane that was created by Morrison.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about him.
Right.
Looking forward to knowing more. Why are he and the Chief, kind of at odds with each other? But it was good.
Yep. So I'll recommend that all your answers are in this one book. This huge Doom Patrol omnibus that I have here. So,
and I believe
this thing is heavy and could kill people.
I see that
is huge. This book
also believe
has the entire run in it.
If you go to right after you watch the pilot episode, they have those episodes online, do they not?
Well, they have the comic books, yes. Yeah. Okay. So you could go if you don't want to spend your money on a big, heavy volume taking up space on your shelf. You can read the digital comics on DC Universe. Yes. So if you want to get it up to speed, I can definitely recommend that. And if you want to kind of get a feel for Mr. Nobody, definitely start with like issue number 26. I think that's a great starting point.
Good.
If you want to learn more about it. But so obviously they kind of tease him here. He's essentially the narrator, and he does it in the fourth wall. So he gets to break the fourth wall. So he's talking directly to the audience, and he gets to kind of make some snide comments along the way, kind of aware comments, like he's talking about like superheroes again, or like critics, they're gonna hate this show, which I thought was a good line, and just that kind of self-awareness. And I think it takes out it makes things not so heavy, because all these heavy drama and all this body horror, which is essentially what's going on here, is that all this is being thrown at you, but it's being presented in a way that it's quirky and it's offbeat. So it kind of lightens things up a little bit.
Yeah. And I really liked, I did like the line, critics are going to hate this.
Yeah.
Which is kind of just so tongue-in-cheek.
Yes. Self-aware.
Yeah, that, this is a It's a comic book show, so of course
Yeah.
people are going to hate it.
Or it's so
So
weird they're gonna
yeah,
hate it.
very weird. Yes.
Yes. But I love that. And Tudyk, we've obviously watched him in Firefly and other roles. He's the voice of K2SO in Star Wars Rogue One.
Yes.
Is really good in that, and just everything else. He was on that Powerless show. Probably the one good thing about that show.
He was really good in that. I realized that show did not work.
Right.
But it was enough. I watched it.
Yeah.
Because it was trying to be Community set in the DC universe.
Right.
So I get that.
But he was good in it.
He was very good in it. He was also very good in the Con Man web series that he
Right.
and Nathan Fillion did, playing a version of himself. Was funny.
Yeah, he's always a fun actor to watch. I love watching him. And the moment I knew he was cast for this, I was just ecstatic because I knew he'd kill it in this role.
Absolutely.
And I really like the special effects they're doing for Mr. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's see if I don't know if I can show Jesse here. Let me pull up a good picture to kind of show where the comparison. Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. Okay, so Jesse, I'm holding this up. So that's Mr. Nobody in the comics.
Okay.
Who is this? He's like not quite in this dimension. He's not whole.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way they depicted him here on the TV series, I was really curious about how they were going to do that. If he was just going to be completely CGI, and they kind of went with an option to kind of show a little like the bottom half of Alan Tudyk's face with his eyes.
Yes.
And then his body's all chopped up, as it's kind of like probably partially in other dimensions or whatnot. And as a result, it makes him really interesting to look at. And and with Tudyk rattling off those lines, it makes him for a really interesting character. And I'm looking forward to seeing where they go.
Yes, we should include an image of that when Rob drops the episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll try and post. If you're not familiar with it, I mean, obviously you can go on Wikipedia, but
yes.
But we will try and post a picture on our Titan Talk page.
Absolutely.
But curious to see what happens. We're kind of left with a cliffhanger that Mr. Nobody confronts the chief, kind of hints that they have kind of a past interaction at some point. We don't know what yet. But the chief is obviously does not like Mr. Nobody. And we'll see, because Mr. Nobody ends up like opening up a big black hole kind of like vortex in the middle of the street, leaving Cliff going, "What the F?"
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll see how the team deals with this.
Several F-bombs.
Yes.
And we get nudity and sex. This is definitely a grown-up.
Right.
Even if Teen Titans was adult, this is truly adult.
Right.
Yeah.
But you kind of, I mean, in the one scene where like Cliff is having anal sex with his nanny, you could kind of expect that.
Yes.
And the way they did it, they kind of just showed it like, okay, one boob is popping out.
Yes.
So it wasn't like full like.
But then when he had sex with the groupie,
right,
that was all the boobies.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then, but I think that again, this is another situation like the Titans series, where they're just dropping enough F-bombs that it kind of loses its impact.
Yeah.
And they're like if they had gone the entire episode, and then the only F-bomb you got was when Cliff sees that vortex, I thought it would have been much more impactful. I thought it would have been, like it would have really punctuated that.
Yeah.
And sold that moment better.
Yeah.
So so that's my take, is that, like, I have nothing against F-bombs. I would use them here. But I respect Rob Southgate and Southgate Media, so I try not to do that. But I think there are times when a good F-bomb, perfectly timed, sometimes fits the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I think that like sometimes less is more, I guess is my point.
Sure, I get
Okay.
that. Doesn't
Okay.
bother me, and it doesn't, I mean, I still found it effective.
Yeah.
But I understand why you're saying that.
Yeah. I just think that like, maybe that don't use it so much so it doesn't come off as just gratuitous.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
guess is my point. All right. Anything else about Mr. Nobody before we move on?
No.
All right. So do you have any favorite lines of the episode?
Nope. We now
Okay.
have questions. Questions for
Okay.
Charles.
All right. So Jesse has questions he must pose.
Yes.
So pose your questions, Jesse.
Okay. So,
As I sit back in my chair.
So Cliff had been with them many, many years, correct?
Yes. As far as the TV show goes, yes.
Yes. So why would have Jane been gone all that time?
Well, apparently she comes and goes as she pleases.
Yes, but that was like 8 years he was there,
Yes.
wasn't it? 8 or 9 years?
Right.
That just seems a long time where he would never have met her. Now, maybe she came while he was still,
right.
Being worked on, but I thought that was a...
Like, why hasn't he met her before is your question. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, again, this is something that's not from the comics.
Right.
So, my guess is that maybe Cliff was kind of off in his room, with his track and just, like isolated because we kind of get a rough idea of how big the manor is, but we don't know exactly how big it is.
Okay.
So maybe like Cliff's off in one wing and doesn't come out very often.
Okay.
And Jane maybe shows up in another wing and only interacts, like maybe Rita goes back and forth, what have you. It does seem weird that, after all those years that the two had never met.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless it's just they kept missing each other.
Yes. Now that they decide to go into town.
Yes.
Don't understand how Crazy Jane was able to paint the bus so quickly, but
right.
we'll skip that.
Right. Maybe it was one of the personality superpowers.
Yes, maybe so.
Super speed.
When they go and then the chief panics, we have to leave right away.
Right.
What exactly are they planning to do when they go back into the city to protect the town from what? What exactly do they think that they are protecting the town from? That was confusing to me.
I don't think they know. I think Cliff, because we saw that Cliff was willing to go back by himself.
Yeah.
And then the others, like they were going to go off and then they turn around and come back.
Right.
So I think Cliff thought that like once he found out that, okay, but there's something out there. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to go face it. And I think the others were just like, well, I don't know where Cliff's like, I don't know what we're going to face either, but we need to be there for Cliff.
Okay.
So that's my answer is that I don't think they knew what they were facing.
Okay.
I think they were just, Cliff went out to face it. They went out to support Cliff.
Okay.
And be with him.
Facing
whatever.
Yeah. It just seems I guess I'm supposed to be all impressed that they're doing this, but it just didn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
Any
other questions?
No, I think I will have later. I'm curious where the chief gets his money. I'm curious why they're doing this.
Well, presumably patents or something because he's a scientist.
Yeah, but it was no, I don't have any. And I do not have any quotes. So I know you did.
Yes.
So please share.
Okay. Real quick. So obviously one of the first quotes in the series, Mr. Nobody. Mm-hmm. Ready for a story about superheroes? More TV superheroes, just what the world needs.
Yes.
Be honest. Have you hung yourself yet?
Yeah.
great line. And there's that exchange between Rita and Cliff where she kind of gives him some hard truth as he's kind of waking up. Rita goes, "The chief's a good man. A big heart, a little odd, maybe a little vague, but it comes from a good place. Me, I'll always tell you the truth. The chief told you the world assumes you're dead. Did he tell you that because the only part of you he was able to save was your brain?" And Cliff goes, "No." Rita replies, "Which means we need to talk about expectations, what you really, really want." Cliff says, "I want to go home." And Rita replies, "And then we need to take those expectations, we need to give them a gentle pat and flush them into the ocean."
Okay.
So a little bitter there, Rita.
Yes.
Just a little bit. And then the exchange between Larry and Cliff, again, whether he wheels Cliff out to get some air. Larry says, "I thought you might like some air." And Cliff replies, "I can't feel the air." And Larry says, "Sucks to be you."
Yeah.
And Cliff replies, "Hey, what was it like getting buried in a pyramid with your cat?"
Yeah, that was a cute line. I did like that line.
Yeah, so obviously making fun of his mummy appearance, which is, again, one of the things back that has gone back all the way to 60s Doom Patrol.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the critics. What do they know? They're going to hate this show. And then there was the scene, obviously, with Jane and Cliff where she's painting that I really liked. This is Jane, who explains that it's not Jane, it's the hangman's daughter that Cliff is talking to at this moment.
Okay.
And Jane says, "Do you remember what it felt like?" And Cliff's like, "What?" Jane says, "To be normal, like them." Cliff says, "Sometimes I try to remember. Sometimes I hope I still will be."
Mm-hmm.
And Jane says, "I don't even know what to hope for. My painting's ruined. Everything's gone wrong." And then Cliff pauses for a moment and says, "Coming out of the rain." So it's a very poignant moment between the two where Cliff reaches out to her. So you have this guy who's kind of self-absorbed, thought he was a bit of a hotshot, but he's reaching out to this woman who's obviously troubled.
Okay.
And the two of their relationship is one of the core foundations of Morrison's run and hopefully this show.
You know, that's I get the feeling, since I've never read the comics,
Yes.
that's important. You know, when I went and saw The Watchmen at the
Right.
theater, I wanted to hear that. You have to understand, I'm not in here with you. I'm quoting it wrong, but you're in here with me.
You're with me, yes.
Yeah, that
Rorschach.
I had to hear that line.
Yeah.
So I can obviously tell
Yes.
this is one of those lines that was very important in the series. So
well, it is because it actually gets reset at the very end of Morrison's run.
Mm-hmm.
So from issue 19 all the way to 63, in issue 63, it calls back to that moment.
Yeah. Oh,
so
cool.
it's kind of that important of a line.
I like their relationship. I like it all. I like all the way they're interacting with each other.
Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. And
okay.
There's a issue coming up, at least in the comics, where Cliff, his mind is projected into Jane's, and he gets to kind of go inside her psyche and interact with her various personalities directly. And I'm really hoping they do that episode, because that would be a really cool one if they do it right.
Ooh, sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what's your rating for this one?
You know, I really liked it a lot, Charles. I went in with very little knowledge of the Doom Patrol. I'm sure I'd read some of the original run. You know, I never was a big you know, I'm still not a huge Grant Morrison fan.
Right.
But I really, really enjoyed it. So, you know, I'm going to give it 9 race car tracks.
Okay, that sounds good. So you really liked it then?
I did. Yeah,
You liked that was a really good production. All
I
right,
did.
cool.
I thought of a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're actually in sync, believe it or
Oh,
not.
good.
I gave it 9 ruined paintings, for obvious reasons. But yeah, I thought it was a much stronger first episode than Titans.
Yes.
It seemed like all the mistakes that Titans had made, Doom Patrol and under showrunner Jeremy Carver, who wrote this episode, he figured it out. He paid attention and goes, okay, we don't need to do that. We need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he learned from it. At least maybe he didn't. Maybe it was just like, a nice, happy happenstance. But it certainly feels like they learned from the mistakes of Titans rollout. And
I agree.
And as a result, it becomes a much stronger production. So we'll see if the rest of the series follows that. But it's a much more promising start, I think.
Yeah, and it's a good story. I mean, they
Right.
told us a good story. They're setting up things. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yep. All right. Real quick, we have some Titans Tower news I want to cover. Just want to an update on Titans season 2. So I thought I'd share that since we can get back to talking some Titans, actual Titans here. Looks like, according to Geeks Worldwide, that Lex Luthor might be turning up in Titan Season 2.
I saw that.
Because apparently they have a character description for a new villain codename Dax, which of course sounds a lot like Lex.
Yeah.
And the description, of course, is mercurial and unpredictable. Dax delights in the element of surprise. Awkward and unpopular as a young boy, he insulated himself from others and developed masterful skills of manipulation. This led to a successful career as a criminal, where he had a unique ability to catch the enemy off guard with his unassuming nature. Having spent many years in prison for his crimes, Dax is thrilled by the opportunity to get to work and create chaos for his foes. So that kind of certainly fills the Lex Luthor description. And if they're introducing Superboy, the Connor Kent Superboy, that makes perfect sense because Connor Kent was created in a lab with a hybrid of Superman's DNA and Lex Luthor's DNA. So it makes perfect sense to if Superboy's going to be there, to have Luthor there.
Yeah, I still don't think they need to go with Superboy, and I know they aren't going to listen to me.
Yes.
But, they haven't finished playing with the toys they have.
I know. I agree. And especially if they're going to do the Judas contract. So maybe that could be the third storyline after they wrap up the first 2.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we'll see. And apparently second season of Titans is supposed to start filming next month. This is February. So that means March, and supposedly going to wrap up in Toronto, provided there's no reshoots, sometime in September. Okay. So I'm guessing probably somewhere October, November, we might start getting the first episodes.
Okay.
And so kind of close to where we were, I'm guessing.
Good.
And other than that, got some Doom Patrol news, just real quick, that apparently Jeremy Carver, the showrunner, said at the Television Critics Association that he's teasing the characters Celsius, Lodestone, Danny the Street, and the Beard Hunter from Morrison's run. Celsius is actually the wife of the chief.
Oh, okay.
So we can talk more about her later because I know we're running long. But definitely a character I would find really interesting to see, and we'll see how that works out. So I just thought that was kind of cool. So
yeah, very nice.
All right, now we do have one quick feedback this time. We got actually some feedback from DJ Nick. So hi, DJ Nick.
Yes.
Nick Pizzagone. And so Nick writes in because he was really excited to talk Doom Patrol, as Jesse saw from the instant messages that we got.
Yes, he is. Yes.
He really wants to talk Doom Patrol with us. We're gonna bring Nick in for when we do our wrap-up show after the 15 episodes of Doom Patrol air.
Yeah.
And so Nick writes in, "Hey guys, in one word, wow. This could not have been a better debut to what will no doubt be a strange, unique, and I'm sure very entertaining series.
Mm-hmm.
Origin stories can always be grinding, but in this case, were handled with panache, guile, and fun. A great job was done by all actors, writers, and directing staff. I may never look at donkeys the same way again. See you next week. Ciao, my friends. And
Yes,
so,
I guess
ciao right back at you, Nick.
Yes, I guess I could have used a
Farting
donkey.
donkeys.
Farting donkeys. Yes,
Yeah,
donkey gas. Yes.
that would have been a good one. But,
really good stuff. By the way, as a side note, DJ Nick is my guest on this week's Set Listing Bruce. As we record this, and this will probably get out this week, provided I get it edited in time, which I will. So yes, you can go over to Set Listing Bruce and hear DJ Nick and I talk about his passion for music and about the radio show. So check it out if you liked Nick. And we are probably going to have Nick join us toward the end of the season for another wrap-up, because he was a wonderful guest star.
Yeah, he brings a lot of fresh energy, and also kind of like I pointed out to him, it doesn't feel like, hey, it's just Jesse and I rehashing what we already discussed. So
Absolutely.
He always gives a great fresh perspective, I think.
He does. So Charles, if someone wants to give us feedback, how can they?
Well, if you want to be like Nick, and who doesn't, you can tell it to Titan Talk at TitanTalkCast@gmail.com. That's TitanTalkCast@gmail.com, or on Facebook at Titan Talk, the Titans Podcast. Or you can drop us a line on the Twitter machine at Titan Talkcast. We'd love to have you. Let us know what you think of Doom Patrol. What did you like about the pilot? Things you didn't like about the pilot. Stuff you want to see in the series. Stuff you don't want to see in the series. We'd love to know. So far, I think Doom Patrol's hitting everything right out of the gate. So hopefully you feel that way as well if you're watching. And I'm hoping you give this series a chance if you haven't already, because I think it's going to be very surprising to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's something very different.
Yes.
This is
not your typical superhero TV show.
Yeah, I think it is. It's very clever.
Yeah, and so we'll see where it goes, but just kind of expand your horizons as far as what you view as superhero TV. I think is a good way to do it.
Yes.
All right. As for me,
yes, Charles, how can we find more of your fine work?
Well, I don't know about fine work, but you can find me at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, or at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, of course, at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, or my blog at Geeky Things. Oh, that's not it. That's the wrong sound effect. No, sound effect fail.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Titan Talk, including Titans, Doom Patrol, anything news of upcoming shows on DC Universe, like Swamp Thing or Stargirl, and otherwise news of my other podcasts. Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, which is going to feature the return of Jesse here next week.
Absolutely.
As we talk about the Lazarus Experiment. I'm looking forward to that. So Jesse's coming back for that. Can't wait. And then also Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where I talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, etc., etc. How about you, Jesse?
I am can be found on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW.
Yep.
I am currently the only other podcast I'm doing right now is my Set Listing Bruce, which continues to come out every week, where I talk to fans of Bruce Springsteen and fans of other musicians. And I've in the planning stages to do something a little bit special for March. So that's a tease. I'm not announcing it yet, but I'm in the plans to do something.
I'm officially intrigued.
Yes. And so we will be back next week to talk to Troll, and I'm going to continue to about once a month stop into Next Stop Everywhere.
Right.
Though you have had some really great guest hosts
Yes,
with you. I think that's
we
been
we have been very blessed with great guest hosts to make me sound somewhat tolerable. That,
well.
they've been great. We've had Fred Firestein, we've had Lee Leonard. I just recorded with Christine Peruski before we got on here, and obviously they can't fill your shoes, Jesse, but they help keep the Next Stop Everywhere train moving along, and I'm very appreciative and thankful to all of them.
Well, and you don't want them. The whole idea is, you're kind of doing a guest star, so you want them to be different.
Right.
It keeps the show fresh. It keeps our listeners going, and so I really appreciate all of them helping out while I'm out doing other stuff.
Yeah, we obviously miss you, but we understand, your circumstances.
Yes.
And if we can't have you, at least we have them.
Aw, very nice.
So, but
Good.
you were obviously sorely missed. So everybody,
Thanks, Charles.
we love hearing from you, Jesse, and we want to hear from all your listeners. Let us know what you think about Doom Patrol. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for everybody as we wait for Titan Season 2. And next week we're going to talk about Donkey Patrol as we find out what happens with that wacky vortex and Mr. Nobody, and what's up with that farting donkey anyway?
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know. That's because I'm kind of curious about that. What's the deal? So we'll find out, and we'll get the introduction of Cyborg as well. So looking forward to that. So everybody come on back, and we will see you next time right here on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.